How many people understand history? When it comes to biblical teachings, do you go back and study behind your spiritual leader? Or do you just take what he or she gives you at face value? When it comes to understanding the Bible and various teachings, such as the Sabbath day, what is it that you were really taught? Now, I think I can answer it for most of you. You were taught that the Sabbath day is for the Jews, but Sunday is for the Christians. You may have been told that the people of the Bible kept the seventh day Sabbath, but when Christ came and died, he nailed it to the cross. Some of you were taught that the Sabbath day was part of the old covenant, and that since we are no longer under the old covenant, it is not necessary for us to keep the Sabbath day. And finally, some of you were taught that it doesn't matter what day we worship God, as long as you worship God. Today, when you think about the Sabbath day, you think of such groups as the Jews, the Seventh-day Adventists, and some of you may even think of the Hebrew Israelites. But was the Sabbath day created for all man? As we turn back the hands of time, traveling back to God's creation, we see that on the first 5 days, God created a lot. On the sixth day, the Bible tells us that God created mankind in his own image. After he created man, Genesis, the 2nd chapter, verse 2 and 3 said, "And on the seventh day, God ended his work which he had made. And he rested on the seventh day from all his works which he had made. And God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it he rested from all his works which God created and made." The Bible tells us that God himself, the creator of the universe, the one who never sleeps or slumbers, as the perfect example for mankind, he rested from all his works on the seventh day. After man was created, the seventh day was created as a day of rest. This is why we see Christ saying in Mark, the 2nd chapter, verse 27, that the Sabbath was made for man and not man for the Sabbath. There is a big piece of the puzzle that you missed. At this time, the time when God sanctified the seventh day, there were no Jews or Israelites. There were no Seventh-day Adventists or Hebrew Israelites. In fact, there wasn't even a law that we had to observe the seventh day as a day of rest. All we know at this point is that God set it aside from the first 6 days. This is what sanctified means. It means to set aside. He was going to do something special with this day. What? At this point, the Bible does not say, but we know that it is different from the first 6 days. From a psychological standpoint, many people, if they have already not stopped watching the video, are not interested in hearing anything about the Sabbath day. To most, man's tradition, it trumps God's truth. Most of us were raised in a society where Sunday service was the norm, and it has been engraved in our minds from the philosophies of men that we should not esteem one day over another. Now, people have been misinterpreted that Bible verse that says that, but people are also reading that out of context. When God separated the seventh day from the first 6 days, it was he who esteemed it. In fact, the Bible said to remember the Sabbath day. That means don't forget it. To keep it holy. The first 6 days were not created as holy days, so you can't make them holy days. But there was a special mention of the seventh day, and that day was made holy. Now, before someone goes and pull out Romans 14:5, I know where you're flipping to. Let me explain what that means. It reads, "One man esteemeth one day above another. Another esteemeth every day alike. Let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind. He that regardeth the day regarded it unto the Lord, and he that regardeth not the day to the Lord, he doth not regard it. He that eateth, eateth to the Lord, for he giveth God thanks. And he that eateth not to the Lord, he eateth not, and give God thanks. There are many days that man esteems over other days. Think about them: anniversaries, memorial days, even family reunions. Many within religion may have days where the congregation may take part in some fasting during the week in an effort to get a spiritual breakthrough or to obtain a closer walk with God. Some places of worship that I know of have prayer breakfast. They may have it once a month or at various times throughout the month. That is what this Bible verse is talking about. It's okay to set a special day aside for God, but you have no business condemning others for not partaking in a special day that you have esteemed. Why? Because the Bible didn't command it. This verse has absolutely nothing to do with the seventh day Sabbath, because as we talked about just a little bit ago, God had already esteemed that day above all other days, told you to remember this day and to keep it holy. This, again, is talking strictly about man's days. Lastly, to understand the statement, to remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy, you have to understand a little bit about the nature of God. To do that, we have to look at a couple of Bible verses and see what it is that God said concerning his own nature. In the 145th division of Psalm, verse 17, it tells us that the Lord is righteous in all his ways and he's holy in all his works. Let me say that once again, that the Lord is righteous in all his ways and he's holy in all his works. When God rested from all his works on the seventh day, that was a way of his. Later on, when he gave a commandment to remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy, that was a work that he had written with his very own finger. Because he is both righteous and holy, that means that he is perfect in what he does and in what he says. What did he do? He rested from all his works on the seventh day and wrote this law later on with his very own finger. In Psalms, the 89th chapter, verse 34, God himself said, "My covenant will I not break, nor alter the thing that is gone out of my lips." Once God said it, it is etched in that spirit of infinity. He is not going to change it. He is not going to break it. And for heaven's sake, he is not going to do away with it. Finally, in Malachi 3:6, it says, "For I am the Lord, I change not. Therefore, ye sons of Jacob are not consumed." He does not change, people. His word is perfect and his ways are perfect. So how did man convince the entire world that the seventh day Sabbath, the way God instituted it, is no longer valid or binding? To find out the answer, join me on our next episode. On behalf of Bethel Temple and College, I'm Minister Al. See you next time.